I understand you all have been attending this foreign policy courses in this platform. You must have attended so many courses, lectures, and by now probably you have realized that foreign policy or foreign relations, bilateral relations, much depend on several factors like, political ideology of the ruling elites, geoeconomic issues, social, political, security issues. So to understand the bilateral relations between countries, it's very important to understand the country, their political system, their leaders, their various issues. So today, before going to talk about India's relations with Maldives, I would like to give you a brief overview about the Maldives, because I understand you all know about India. So I'm going to talk about the Maldives, the country. Now, here you can, is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay. Yeah. So this is
the map of the slideshow if you want. You can start the slideshow.
Yeah, okay, fine. So this is the map of Maldives, and these are tiny islands. Basically, Maldives is an archipelagic country, and it's comprised of 1,190 small islands. But out of these 1,190, only 200 islands are inhabited islands where people live. They are resident of those islands. And there are around 132 islands which are known as resort islands. You all know that Maldives is known for their tourism, and that's the mainstay of their economy. So they have this system called each island has one resort in one island. Only the people who are working in those resorts, they live there, and the tourists, they live there. So there are 200 inhabited islands and 132 resort islands. And Maldives, from the map, you probably have seen that they have a very small land area, and they have a vast, maritime area. It is around 9,74,000 square kilometers. Whereas the land area of that country is 20,130 square kilometers. So this is an important aspect for Maldives, because the tiny island, but they have to look after a huge maritime domain. So that is an important implications in their security issues. Now, coming to population, it's a small island. There are 5.41 lakh population. And the entire population of Maldives, particularly the citizens, they are 100% Sunni Muslim populations. But there are other expatriates live there. Many people, they work there in the tourism sector or in service sector. So the expatriates, they may follow their other religion, but the population, when we talk about Maldivian, they are 100% Sunni Muslim population. Islam is the state religion, and they speak the Vehi language. Now, as I have mentioned, it's a tiny island. There's a small land area, so they have many other non-political and non-security issues. And I would like to mention about that, because when you talk about India-Maldives relations, you will see how they are connected, because they don't have much land area. So housing is a major issue for them. Then agriculture, again, because they don't have much land area, so agricultural production is an issue for them. It's an island nation. It's sea all over. So the water, they have adequate water, lots of water, but they are not consumable. So fresh drinking water is a problem. Those waters has to be, they need to have desalinate plant to make them consumable. And then the Maldivians, they have anyway the number of population, it's a small number of population, and the problem is they lack skilled manpower. And another problem, which is a serious problem for Maldives, really we don't understand here, but for Maldivians, it's a major problem, that is waste disposal, because climate change and sea level rises are main issues. And so if they cannot dump their waste in the sea, so they have to dispose it properly. So it's a very difficult island, because there's one island dedicated for waste disposal. So they have to collect their waste, and they have to take it to that island to dispose it off. So then the commutation, how they will carry. So these are the major issues for them. And another important, as I mentioned, that there are around 200 islands where people live. There are certain areas, like, for example, the capital city, Malé, then there are some bigger city like Adu city and all. There are 4 or 5 bigger cities. Other than that, the other islands, they're the remote islands. Only in some islands, probably the population will be in 500 or 600. and they don't have much, facilities in those islands. So for health facilities or any other in the time of emergency or other job purposes, they have to come to the main cities to get the facilities. And because the islands are dispersed, it also becomes very difficult for the police or Maldivian National Defense Force to, maintain security. In some of the islands, probably there's no presence of police and all. So these are the issues which have implications for Maldives. Now, coming to security issues, very briefly, I'll just flag the point because we don't have much time. So these are the major security issues in my understanding, that is radicalization, violent extremism and terrorism, climate change and sea level rise, I have mentioned, drugs, drug trafficking and the consumption of drug. It's a major problem in Maldives. There are many people who are actually consuming drugs, and they have nexus with the, like radicalization, violent extremism, because many people get radicalized when they are in the rehabilitation center or in the prison. And last point, the interests of bigger powers, because Maldives is situated in an important location in the Indian Ocean. Because of its geostrategic location, many of the bigger powers and also the extra-regional powers, they are very much interested to have this kind of influence on Maldives. So for Maldives, it's a security concern, because sometimes they feel that in the process, they may get, their sovereignty may get affected. So these are the issues, security issues for Maldives. Economic issues, again, because there's a limited land area. So and they don't have much skill. There are lack of resources. That is why there are limited resources of revenue earning. As I mentioned, tourism is one. That's the mainstay of Maldives economy. And another is fishing. Though they have seas around, and they can have probably that impression one can get that they may have lots of fishing resources and all that. But export of fishing is also not much. The main revenue comes from tourism and next from fishing. And because they don't much produce, so that is they're import dependent for everything from food to their other like construction raw materials. For everything, they are import dependent. And as I mentioned before, unskilled manpower, that's an issue, and that has an impact on economy of the country. Now, very briefly, about the political system. Now, Maldives was a sultanate since 12th century, and then it became a British protectorate in 1887. And in 1965, it got independence, and in 1968, it became a republic. Now, so I have divided this 1965 to 2004, that period, the political structure of Maldives was different. That time, it was a single party system. There was, from 1968 to 1978, there was one president, President Ibrahim Nasir. After that, from 1978 to 2008, almost for 30 years, Maumoon Abdul Gayoom ruled the country. But they used to have election. There was kind of referendum, but then there was no party competition. No other party members can party or from within the party also anyone can contest. He was the one who people used to vote for him. So, but in 2003, now some people, they started, demonstrating for political reforms. They are asking for a multi-party system and change in the constitution. So president, he declared emergency in 2004, but ultimately he could not, suppress the political reform movements. And ultimately, the political parties were legalized in 2005. And 2008, they brought a new constitution which allowed multi-party system. And in 2008, there was a presidential election which was fought under multi-party system. So since 2008, the country is following a multi-party system. There are several parties, political parties which are participating in the election. So in 2008, Maumoon Abdul Gayoom, who ruled for 30 years, he lost the election. Then Mohammad Nasheed became a president. He's from his party is known as Maldives Democratic Party, that is called MDP. So the MDP candidate Mohammad Nasheed became president, But in 2009, there was parliamentary election. His party did not do well. And since 2011 onwards, we see some kind of protest against Muhammad Nasheed. There are all the other political parties, they got together and they started protesting against Muhammad Nasheed. And ultimately, Muhammad Nasheed was forced to resign. Then his vice president that time, he was appointed as president. So from 2012 to 2013, he was a president, but then under international pressure, they conducted an election in 2013. And in 2013 presidential election, Abdullah Yamin became president. Now, when Abdullah Yamin became president, there were lots of issues came in the country. There was a turmoil in the country. There was a suppression of, democratic opposition, the suppression of political opponents. There was erosion of democracy. There were allegations of human rights violation. Extremism grew during that time. And under the foreign affairs, we saw a decline in India-Maldives relations and an increase in Chinese and Saudi presence in the country. So an international community, including India, was totally disappointed with President Yamin. And what he did to suppress the political opponents, because the international community, they were taking sides of the political opponents. He brought laws, amendments in the constitution by which he sent many of the political opponents, the main leaders, to jail. So in 2018 presidential election, the then President Abdullah Yamin, he lost the election, and Ibrahim Mohammed Soli became a president. Now, Ibrahim Mohammed Soli is from Maldivian Democratic Party, so he became the president. And since 2019, there are slight improvement in the country, in the sense that during Yamin's administration, the foreign policy was focused only on China and Saudi Arabia. But then there was Ibrahim Soli, his election agenda was that during the election campaign, he talked about that rectifying those mistakes and improving the foreign policy with the international community, with several other important countries. So they started doing that, and the relationship with other West, US, India have improved slightly, improved significantly, in fact, since 2019 onwards. But so it's been 3 years, 2019, that Ibrahim Soli, Maldivian Democratic Party, they are ruling the country. In the parliamentary election also, MDP, they got absolute majority. But there are the democracy and human rights issues, they have improved slightly compared to 2013 to 2018 period. But then there are issues because there is a struggle between the leader of Maldivian Democratic Party, the Muhammad Nasheed, and the president, who is also a member of Maldivian Democratic Party. Some power struggle going on. So the Maldivian Democratic Party, the ruling party, they are kind of divided right now. So because of that, there are issues coming up. So the MDP, the ruling party, is losing popularity. So, and then of course you all know about the COVID challenges. So it has impacted severely on Maldives economy. So these are the issues going on. So with this, I'll stop about Maldives now, and I'll talk about India Maldives relations. Now, I would request you to just observe this map. The red area, this is Maldives, and this is India. So from the map, you can see that how there's a huge gap between these two countries in every aspect, be it geography, population, economy, military. In every aspect, there's a huge gap between these two countries. But even then, there's a strong friendly and relationship between India and Maldives, except during 2013 to 2018 period. 1965 to 2012, we saw very strong and friendly relations. In fact, India was the first country to recognize when Maldives got independence. And many of as I mentioned, that they don't have skilled manpower and they don't have much resources. So many of the facilities, for example, the hospital, India provided a grant to construct a hospital. It's known as Indira Gandhi Memorial Hospital. And later also India provided assistance to renovate that hospital. The Polytechnic Institute, then the Faculty and Institute for Tourism, all are set up with Indian assistance. And I think this relationship improved significantly in 1988. There was a coup attempt in 1988 against the to oust the then President Mamun Abdul Qayyum. And since they did not have much capability, so they asked for Indian assistance, and India provided immediate assistance to Maldives. Indian Air Force, Indian Navy, they got involved, and then the attempt to coup was ousted. I mean, the country and the president, they were rescued. So Maldivians, they are very much grateful about that assistance in 1988. Even now they talk about Indian assistance, immediate assistance during that period. So as post 1988 period, we saw a significant improvement in India-Maldives relations. In fact, when 2008 Muhammad Nasheed came into power, he is a great friend of India. So during his period, also relationship improved. And in fact, when he was forced to resign, he suspected some kind of coup, and also he took shelter in Indian embassy. Only after 2-3 days, probably he has surrendered. So, and even during 2013 to 18 period, when there were lots of suppression going on to suppress the political opponents, and actions were taken against the MDP members and all. So, MDP looked towards Indian assistance, and wanted India's involvement at that time. But as I mentioned, 2013 to 2018 period, during President Abdullah Yamin's period, relationship decline. Decline in the sense that what happened, as I mentioned, that because of the way he was ruling the country, he was criticized, and also because of the Chinese footprint increased. Abdullah Yamin, he was pro-Chinese, and he thought that his vision of development and all, he needed money for that, and he got closer to China. And he thought by getting the Chinese money and Chinese assistance, and also Saudi assistance, he can survive. He doesn't need the other partners, other international community. He did not only, the relationship between Maldives relations with other countries declined, and not only with India, but also Commonwealth, West, EU, all the countries which are main development partners of Maldives, relationship declined. And with India, when we talk about how the relationship declined, I would like to mention here that, as I mentioned, that monitoring the maritime area, it's a major problem for Maldives. So India offered 2 helicopters to monitor the EEZ area, Maldives area, and also those 2 helicopters help Maldives. As I mentioned, that many people live in the remote islands and they have to come to the main cities. But during emergency situation, health emergency situation, commuting from those remote islands is a major problem, because they have to commute through ferry. There are weather issues. If the weather is bad, this commuting through ferries becomes major problem. So these 2 helicopters which India gifted to Maldives, they rescued several patients. I mean, people who are in health emergency, to bring them to the cities where there are medical facilities and all. So those helicopters are there. But since Maldives doesn't have the capability or capacity to, run those Dornier aircrafts or maintain those crafts, so some of the Indian armed forces personnel, they are present there, but they don't. They work under Maldives National Defense Force Command. That's 2 helicopters. They run under Maldives National Defense Force Command. But Yamin administration, because they were pro-Chinese and they did not want, kind of Indian presence there, so they started talking about that how India is trying to have a military presence by providing these helicopters and all, and those Indian military is present there. So in fact, in 2016, 17 and 18, Yamin administration asked India to take back those 2 helicopters. And also, India Maldives has a strong defense cooperation, defense and security cooperation. There are several mechanisms, for example, armed forces, army to army talk dialogues, and then the naval dialogues, and all these dialogues. And Maldivian National Defense Force, they also participate in several military exercises. But in 2018, Maldives refused to participate in one of such military exercise. So, and towards the end, I think towards the 17-18, Maldivian administration was kind of very blatant when they were trying to ignore India, even though they officially said that they are following India First policy, but on ground, they never followed India First policy. The situation really declined. But as I mentioned, when in 2018 presidential election happened and Yamin lost and Ibrahim Soli became president, since Maldivian Democratic Party, they are friendly towards India, and the relationship between India and Maldives improved significantly. Since 2019, India has actually overtaken Chinese as the major development partner of Maldives. Now, India is involved in several large infrastructure development projects, as well as small high impact community development projects, because Maldives doesn't have much and also India is also providing assistance to Maldivian National Defense Force, the Maldivian police, and this assistance comes in the form of improving their capacity and capability, providing training. Not only the Maldivian armed forces are given training, but also like the civil servants, and then archaeology department. Also, then counter-terrorism cooperation is very significant between India and Maldives. Now, money laundering is an important part of when a country deals with the terrorists and extremists and all. So, but they don't have very advanced financial intelligence units. So India is also trying to help in that aspect. So I think so this kind of assistance is going on. In terms of money, India has committed around $2 billion money. Out of that, around 800 is for development of large infrastructure projects and also high impact community development projects. As I mentioned that, safe drinking water is an issue, waste disposal is an issue, fishermen, fishing facility, plantation, all those things are issue for them. So India is providing assistance, small projects. These are small projects, but then these are very important for Maldivians because they directly help. So for India is providing, a solar system to provide electricity, street electricity, to develop the fishing plant, then to develop a desalinization plant, then sewerage system as another problem for them. So India is providing assistance. So all this kind of high impact community development projects which directly affect people, India is providing assistance, and also large infrastructure, for example, like linking the islands, because they don't have, there is only Chinese built one island, it's called Sinamale, one bridge which connects one island to another island. Now India is constructing a project, it's called Greater Malay project, which will connect 3 islands, which will improve their connectivity among the islands within Maldives. So these are the assistance they are providing. India is also trying to see how they can help the security of the country by providing the infrastructure to the Maldivian National Defense Force and also Coast Guard and all those things. So the relationship is improved. There's a government-to-government understanding right now between the two countries. So everything is there, but then it's not free of issues and concerns. I have COVID-related assistance. I think I should mention about that, because during that time, India not only provided vaccination and other medical assistance, but also during lockdown period in 2020, early part of 2020, when there was a lockdown both in India and Maldives, the Maldivian patients because large number of Maldivian patients, they come to India for treatment. So Maldivian patients were allowed to come through an air bubble agreement to India for treatment. And after that, since tourism is an important thing for them, so there was an air bubble agreement under which lots of Indian tourists went to Maldives and contributed to, strengthen their economy. I'll not go into details of all the assistance which India is providing, but if any one of you want, I can share it later. Trade, of course, as you have seen in the map, there's a huge difference, and Maldives doesn't have much to, export to India. So trade is not much, but still, this is the trade figure you can see. From India, mostly the product goes like rice, food items, medicines, and also the construction materials, everything. And from Maldives, we also import, though it's not much, but still we import something from Maldives, and that is the scrap material, because they use boats and also they have scrap material and waste like copper waste, then aluminium waste. So we require it for various purposes. So we import waste, copper, aluminium, iron scrap from Maldives. So I'll come to my last slide, and that is the concerns. What is the concerns? If everything is so good between the two countries, there's a government-to-government understanding, what is the concern now then? Now, the problem is, as I mentioned before, that during Yamin's period, they were saying that by providing those helicopters, Indian military is involved, and by that, India is trying to have a military presence in the country. That kind of movement again started since 2020. From 2020 onwards, we again see this kind of India out campaign. And now they are saying not only Dornier aircraft, since 2019 onwards, India and Maldives are having several security cooperation. India is providing assistance to develop Maldivian National Defense Force. India is also constructing a Coast Guard harbor. India is also providing assistance to construct, financial assistance to construct a headquarter composite training center. So now and India is also providing assistance to develop hydrographic survey, because for the shipping and all, hydrographic survey is a very important. They need to have map, but what Maldives has a very old map, and they don't have the capacity to develop a new map. So India is providing the assistance. An agreement is signed between the two countries to develop, to do the hydrographic survey. Now the Yamin administration, which is in the Yamin party, PPM, known as PPM, which is in opposition right now. Now what they are saying that by signing this kind of military and security cooperation, India is trying to have a military presence. And so they started that they are spearheading this campaign. It's called India Out campaign. So they basically say that we are not against Indian projects, civilian projects in the country, but we are against Indian military projects in the country, and we don't want it will affect our sovereignty. So basically, they have issues with three treaties. One is that Dornier aircraft, because of which around 10 armed forces personnel from India, they are present there. They are saying that is an issue for them, for the India Out campaigners. Second issue is that hydrographic survey. They are saying that India will have all intelligence information by doing that. And third, they are saying that they also have an issue why the Coast Guard, that dockyard that is being constructed by India. They are saying by constructing in India, India will have a base, which is definitely an exaggeration. Government of Maldives has denied this kind of, propaganda by India Out campaigners. They are saying this is baseless. But the India Out campaigners they're saying that if these are baseless, why then government is not sharing these agreements, this bilateral agreement signed between the two countries. So these are the issues. Parliamentary in Maldivian Parliament, a committee was set up to study how much these three agreements between India and Maldives will affect Maldives sovereignty. But then parliament committee, that's a national security committee, is known as 241 committee. They are saying that no, actually Maldives is not going to be, there will not be any kind of harm to Maldives because of those agreements. But then President Yamin, he was in jail for 2-3 years. Now he has come out of the jail. And after coming out of jail, he is going from one island to another island to spread this India Out campaign. Though they are saying that it's against the military cooperation between the two countries and the military presence in the country, but I think in the last month there was a news that when 2 Indian teachers were also harassed in the name of India Out campaign, large numbers of Indians are actually there in the service sector as doctors, as teachers. So. Though government of India has actually government of Maldives has criticized this India Out campaign, and they have said that they are not going to support it. And they have, in the parliament, there's a bill by which they want to criminalize this India Out campaign. But that's an issue, because right now government of Maldives, because it's a friendly government, friendly parties ruling the government, so that it is not affecting India-Maldives relation much. But as I mentioned, that MDP is losing popularity before. So in the coming election, because next year there will be presidential election and then there will be parliamentary election, if they don't come back to power, and this opposition party, which is spearheading this India Out campaign, they come back to power, they may affect India-Maldives relation significantly. So I'll stop here since we don't have much time, and I'm looking forward to any kind of questions and comments if you have any. Thank you.
Hello, Dr. Gulbin.
Yes,
sorry
sir?
for the inconvenience. Inconvenience for you. We have asked the students to email the questions to us. I will forward all the questions to you by email,
Okay.
and then at rest, you can take your own time to reply those questions. Because
Sure.
some of them are, because I think the time is going to be over now, and the questions will be there. I will also put a few questions like a student. I think you can very well explain things. They will be valuable for the students. And I think that you can do at ease.